Welcome to the Martin Bailey Photography Podcast. It's July 14, 2022, and this is episode 784. We pick up the trail in this fifth and final part of my complete Namibia tour report for 2022 as we made our way into the Etosha National Park on a day that we traversed the entire park from west to east, and shortly after we entered the park we noticed this spotted hyena having a morning stroll. It was difficult to catch him as he walked quickly through the park behind the trees, but I managed to grab a frame or two when he was in a good clearing. The sun was behind him, so the lighting is not great, but the shadow slider in Capture One Pro helped me to bring out a lot of detail in the hyena, so I'm pretty happy with this. A large part of what I teach on my workshops is the importance of keeping your eye on your exposure via the histogram, and this shot shows the importance of that better than most. I almost always expose to the right, which means that I'm manually changing my exposure so that the brightest part of the image, represented by the rightmost data on the histogram, always falls just before or even just touching the right shoulder of the histogram frame. For many reasons, this will generally give you the best image quality, but in this image, it was key to gaining a well-exposed image while giving me enough information in the hyena to bring out the shadow details. If I had left it up to the camera, the scene would have been recorded in the middle of the histogram, and the hyena would have been so dark that the details would have not been recoverable from the shadows. Even as I shot this at my adjusted exposure, the hyena was almost completely black in silhouette, but I trusted my process and got a shot that I'm happy with. Shortly after our encounter with the hyena, we headed to a waterhole where we found some zebra taking a drink, and they had pretty nice reflections, resulting in this image. Zebra are always great subjects, but those dazzling stripes getting doubled up in the reflections make for a striking image, and the sun caught some of their eyes, giving me some lovely catch lights. The following image is a little bittersweet for several reasons. At first, I was really happy to find a leopard out in the open. Until now, I've only seen leopards in Namibia obscured by thickets or foliage, or for just a few seconds before they took cover again. This leopard was sitting under a tree with what we thought was probably a springbok that he'd taken down. The first problem with this, though, was that it was the middle of the day and he was very far away. That means that even though I could use the 2x extender on my RF 100 to 500mm lens for a focal length of 1000mm, the shimmering of the air from the heat takes away most of the clarity in the subject. It looks okay-ish when you view the full-frame image, but when you zoom in on the leopard, the image quality just isn't there. The second problem that you may be able to make out is that this animal has the wire of a snare wrapped tightly around its upper jaw. You might be able to see that the skin on the snout is pinched downwards between the nose and the eye, and also the upper lip is pulled up a centimetre or so. Although the leopard was trying to eat, I guess that the snare was so uncomfortable or painful that he was having trouble making a start on his meal. As soon as I returned to Tokyo a few days after this, I sent this photo with GPS coordinates and the name of the nearby waterhole to our travel partner for this tour, and they in turn passed this information on to one of the vets that work in the Etosha National Park, so that they could locate, anesthetize, and then take the snare off this beautiful animal. I haven't heard anything back yet, but hopefully it won't take too long before we can remove that snare and give this guy a normal life again. I should add that I was not aware of the snare when I shot this image. I was trying to make the best of the situation, using the tree to augment the landscape and show the leopard in his environment. I only saw the snare later when I zoomed in to check the lack of detail in the leopard. Many years ago, I photographed a secretary bird at the Ueno Zoo here in Tokyo, and was amazed at how beautiful it was with its long eyelashes and pristine headdress. I was still working in my old day job and honestly didn't at the time even dream that my efforts as a podcaster and blogger would lead me to become an international tour and workshop leader. So this next photo has a special place in my heart. We came across a secretary bird in the wild, strutting through the grasses in the Etosha National Park. At first it was far away, and the clarity was low again due to the midday haze. This time our subject continued walking towards us, so I was able to get this beautifully clear shot at 500mm as the bird continued walking, looking for lizards and other small animals, even snakes, to prey upon. These are magnificent birds, and I feel so humbled that the life I've been able to make for myself through the podcast has enabled me to build a working business model that enables me to travel to such wonderful places on what I truly believe are life-changing tours for the guests that are kind enough to travel with me. Not to mention life-changing for me too. A little later in the day we were in for another treat as we spotted a white rhino heading towards a waterhole. I can't recall seeing any white rhino in the park here, with our sightings usually restricted to the ones at the Ongava Lodge, so I'm hoping that this indicates that the poachers are being kept out. The fact that these animals are no longer having their horns removed is also very encouraging and makes for much better photographs. Again, I love the scene that this rhino is in, with the beautiful tall yellow grass that simply could not grow for the few years before the pandemic struck due to the drought that lasted 7 years and ended finally with the rains in Namibia that they got in December and the start of this year. I used my 1.4 times extender on the 100 to 500mm lens for this shot, giving me a 700mm focal length. I haven't called out the settings for all of my shots today, but generally I'm aiming to get a shutter speed of around a 2,000th of a second to freeze the motion should the animals be running around, and that requires an ISO of around 1600 at f11, or in this case f13, because I wanted slightly more depth of field to show the landscape in focus. Also note that if you click on images on my website, you can see the shooting data in the light box surrounding the images if you're interested. And all images can be seen on the posts at mbp.ac and then the episode number. So for this one, it's mbp.ac/784. I was happy with this next photo of a lilac-breasted roller bird in flight until I saw a shot from one of my guests who had captured the bird with its wings spread and a beautiful angle showing the top of the bird. Now I'm not so impressed with my own shot, but it's great to see my guests get incredible work, and it always helps me to stay on my toes. Again, I'm so impressed with the Canon RF 100 to 500mm lens, including with extenders fitted, as it handles really well and the image quality is out of this world. Being able to get to 700mm with the 1.4 extender is amazing, and I've gotten used to the fact that you can't zoom out completely when you have an extender fitted. We don't always need very long focal lengths though. This beautiful, proud African elephant is pretty much filling the frame at 300mm. If I'm not mistaken, this is the one that shortly after this did a dummy charge at our vehicle as he walked in front of us. He was not comfortable with the distance. He was also so close that I switched to my iPhone to get some video, which I'll include in the slideshow that I'm going to put together to showcase the trip after posting this concluding episode of my trip report series. Next, we have a journey of giraffes, also shot relatively wide at only 223mm. I cropped this down to a panorama to emphasize the width of the group. We can tell from the pattern in their fur that these are Angolan giraffe, and I also heard that the darker coloured giraffe are the older animals. We also saw a lot of scuffles and fighting between the zebra near the waterholes. I'm guessing that this is because the rains have provided more food, and that probably has the female zebra thinking more about having young, and that in turn is making the males more likely to fight to find their pecking order within their groups. I returned with lots of shots of zebra fighting and kicking each other, but this is probably my favourite. However, it is a somewhat brutal attack on the middle zebra, as we can see from the white of his eye as he receives a particularly hard blow from both sides of his neck. This 50th and final image of this 5-part series is an attempt at a panning shot. We saw some giraffe that had been frightened by something and started running from the waterhole, so I selected a slow shutter speed of an 80th of a second and tried to pan with the giraffe to make the background a little blurry. I succeeded to a degree and feel that probably with this number of animals and the distance to them, this is probably about as much as I can expect to succeed at relatively easily. Next time I think I'll try a 50th or a 40th of a second, as I do for panning with bird shots. Even though the success rate will be lower, if I pull it off, it will give a very beautiful result. Okay, so that's about it for the images. We travelled back to Windhoek the following day, and before we all flew home, the group was kind enough to record a few comments for us, which I'll add into the audio right now. So here we are at the end of my first tour for 2.5 years, and I have absolutely thoroughly enjoyed travelling with this group of amazing people. I want to pass the mic around and get a few comments from each of them. We're in Namibia. This will be at the end of the Namibia series, so you'll already know that. But let's see, who wants to go first? Let's pass it over to Marie then. Here we go.
Hi, this is Marie. This has been a fabulous trip. We first scheduled this several years ago as a special treat for my 60th birthday, and 2 years later we're celebrating it, and it was everything I hoped for and more.
Brilliant that way is one guy.
Just leave it, right?
You know what he is? He's a doctor.
I'm with Greg's done his, so
That's right. Doctor from San Diego. Fabulous trip.
Folks.
2 years, 3 years in the making. Landscape that rivals Patagonia and an eclipse and Iceland all in one, even though there was no ice here. Just a fabulous trip.
It's all right. Okay, so hi, this is Jan. The tour has exceeded all my expectations. I really enjoyed the accommodation. Martin, you've done very well in selecting exceptional places. What can I say about the group? The group itself was a lot of fun. During the day when we were not photographing, there was a lot of very intellectual discussion and bantering going on, which went straight over my head. I felt it was worthwhile repaying them to tell jokes at night that went straight over their head.
Speaking of
You know?
jokes,
So finally, this has been really a very good trip, which I've enjoyed very much. This was my very first trip, but definitely not the last.
So this is John. I've been on this tour for now 2 weeks. Had a great time. It's been far better than I ever imagined. The people have been amazing. Martin's been fantastic. Our driver, Forster, has been a dream, and it has surpassed all of my expectations. I couldn't have had a better time and had better results. Thank you.
Here he goes, look.
well, when I first signed up for this trip, right, I thought I was going to get some class. And that's what Martin taught me. But counter what everyone else has said, the trip started off with just a brutal fight for seats in the car. And once again, I credit Martin with calming everyone and creating a situation of those in the front and those in the back. No, the sights were spectacular. The people were truly lovely. The other customers on the trip, I'll withhold judgment. Actually, everybody was terrific, except for maybe John. It was. Can I say this? Is it okay? It was purely the flatulence. It's the closed car. We're in the sun, and everybody knew it was him, and we were polite, and I just think this is a time for honesty.
Blamed it on the bill, Tom.
Yeah.
Thank you, Greg. And yes, it was me.
No, but honestly, it was an amazing trip. We saw amazing sights. Everybody was lovely to be around. We had a lot of fun, and hopefully my pictures stack up to everyone else's. And Martin, thank you. It was a trip I look forward to making again.
Thank you very much. Okay, so just for the sake of the listening audience, the last three people were actually the same one. So if you're counting the number of participants, there were 5 plus me, not 7. Yes, you didn't, Greg.
Yes, Greg.
Gregory. Okay, well, really, thank you so much, folks. You've made this probably one of, if not the best trips that I've done, and I have thoroughly enjoyed your company and hope to travel with you again. Thank you very much. It's been great. No, thank you very much. Okay, so the auto volume on my digital recorder didn't do as good a job as I'd hoped there, but hopefully you caught what the guest said. They were a wonderful group, such a pleasure to travel with, and listening to them all again there made me feel as though we were still back in Namibia 4 weeks ago, and in many ways I wish we were. Life goes on here in Tokyo though. Having thought about this a lot over the past 6 months or so, I've actually taken up archery since returning. I have joined a local club and enjoying it immensely. I don't know how it will play into my photography, other than the fact that it's getting me out and is more physical exercise than I'd expected it to be. And that's great because I've already started to lose a few pounds, so hopefully this is something that I'll be able to continue. As I mentioned a few times during this series of reports, I will now set about the task of creating a slideshow to showcase the trip and what can be achieved on my tour. I hope that I'll be able to share that with you over the next week or so, alongside some tips on using the latest version of Boink's software's Photo Magico. Thanks very much for listening today. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider supporting us on Patreon, which comes with various tiers of benefits depending on your contribution. Although all tiers provide access to the full blog posts for more than 780 episodes, as well as access to the MBP community. For further details, check out our Patreon page at mbp.ac/Patreon. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter and LinkedIn, and links to everything that I'm up to are at martinbaileyphotography.com, so do drop by and take a look. I'll be back next week with another episode, but in the meantime, you take care and have a great week, whatever you're doing. Bye bye.